I took care of my grandmother for 7 years while everyone else lived their lives. I changed her diapers, missed vacations, postponed school. When she passed, my uncle looked me dead in the eye and said, "You don't deserve a dime." They'd sold the house behind my back. "You were just the help," my cousin whispered. I left the funeral early. 3 weeks later, they got a visit from someone who knew exactly what they did. "My name's Rachel. I live in Springfield, Missouri. I'm 29 now. But when this all started, I was 22 and just trying to figure out life. I had plans: go back to school, maybe move to Nashville with my best friend, get a job that didn't make me want to scream every day. I was in community college, studying nursing. Life was moving. Not fast, but it was moving. Then Grandma got sick. Her name was Mabel. She was my only real family left. My parents died in a car crash when I was 10. Grandma took me in without thinking twice. Raised me on a small pension and a social security check. We lived in her old house just outside of town. The place needed work, but it was home. At 22, she had a stroke. Then the diabetes got worse. Then came the incontinence, the memory problems, the fainting spells. Suddenly she needed someone full-time. There was no money for a nurse. No cousins offering to help. My Uncle Greg, her stepson, told me it would probably just be temporary. That temporary thing turned into 7 years. 7 years of changing diapers, making bland meals she could digest, managing blood sugar levels, and trying to keep the house from falling apart. 7 years of sleepless nights and skipped vacations. 7 years of saying, "Maybe next semester," whenever anyone asked if I was still in school. And not once, did Greg, Jeremy, or Amanda come stay overnight. Greg might pop in once every few months, usually just to talk about paperwork. Amanda sent a Christmas card one year. Jeremy borrowed a ladder once and never brought it back. It was all on me. Me and Grandma. But I didn't complain. I mean, not out loud. She raised me. I owed her. And I loved her. Even when she forgot who I was or thought we were in a different year, I stayed. Even when she was angry and scared and yelling, I stayed. And in the quiet moments, like when she squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you, baby," I knew I was doing the right thing. The last year of her life was the hardest. She barely spoke. Her legs stopped working. Her weight dropped. The house felt like a hospital. Machines beeped. Alarms went off. And still, no one helped. I watched her die on a Wednesday morning. I was sitting by her bed. She was looking past me, eyes open. I held her hand and kept saying, "It's okay. You can rest now." And then she was gone. I called Greg. He showed up 12 hours later like he was just swinging by after work. "Tough stuff," he said. That's all he said. I handled the funeral arrangements. I picked the flowers. I called the church. I chose the photo. Greg showed up in a suit that looked like it had been in storage since 1995. Jeremy wore sunglasses indoors. Amanda kept asking if there was a reading of the will. There was no reading. At least not then. After the funeral, I was standing by my car when Greg came up behind me. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't say thank you. He just said this: "She didn't leave you anything." I turned around. "Excuse me?" "She didn't leave you the house. Or the money. Nothing." I thought I misheard him. That doesn't make sense. "She told me she wrote a will." He nodded. "Yeah. She wrote something. But it's not valid. Handwritten. No witnesses. It won't hold up. We had to move forward. We already sold the house." I stared at him. "What do you mean you sold the house?" He shrugged. "It's done. It closed last week. We had power of attorney while she was sick." "You were just living there. You sold it behind my back?" "We had to. The taxes. The repairs. It was the right thing to do." I couldn't even speak. I was shaking. Then Jeremy walked past, leaned close, and whispered, "You were just a help. You got paid in rent. That was it for me." I got in my car and left. I didn't even say goodbye to anyone. I drove to a parking lot, sat there for hours, and cried harder than I ever had in my life. 7 years. Gone. No college. No savings. No job history. And now no home. For the next few weeks, I barely moved. I stayed at a friend's place, sleeping on her couch. I couldn't eat. Couldn't think. I kept going over every conversation I had with Grandma, wondering what I missed. Then I remembered something, a shoebox she'd given me months earlier. She said, "Don't open it until I'm gone." I thought maybe it was a photo album or old letters. I had packed it without opening it. I found it in one of the bags I had brought with me. Inside were a thick journal with dates and names, envelopes with labels like Lawyer Rachel and Roy Templeton, a USB stick, copies of bank receipts. I opened the journal first. It wasn't just her writing thoughts. It was a log. She'd written everything down. Every expense I covered. Every appointment Greg missed. Every time someone promised to show up and didn't. Every sacrifice I made. One page read, Rachel spent $92 of her own money on prescriptions this week. I told her not to, but she said it's okay. I know she's barely getting by. I wish I could help her more. She deserves everything. There were pages like that for years. I plugged in the USB drive. It had photos, me feeding Grandma, me lifting her into bed, me taking notes at doctor's appointments. There were also video files. Most were short clips of us watching TV or playing cards. But two stood out. One showed Greg and Amanda in the kitchen last year. They didn't know there was a camera. Amanda: When's the house going on the market? Greg: Soon as we get the paperwork. I've got a buyer already. Amanda: What about Rachel? Greg: She's just living here. It's not hers. The second video was worse. Greg was on the phone with someone, pacing in the living room. Greg: She's still alive, but not for long. We'll have to forge the signature again. Just copy the last one. I felt sick. I opened the envelope marked Roy Templeton. Inside was a note. Rachel, this man is trustworthy. He helped me when I started suspecting things about Greg. If anything happens to me, contact him. So I did. Roy turned out to be a retired cop and part-time private investigator. He used to go to the same church as Grandma. She'd asked him to look into some strange withdrawals from her account. Roy had documents, bank records, call logs, even emails between Greg and some realtor. Grandma had hired him to quietly gather proof of Greg's actions. That was when I knew I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was right. Roy connected me with a lawyer who specialized in elder financial abuse and estate fraud. We built a case. A strong one. We had documents. We had photos. We had Grandma's journal. And we had video. Not just bad behavior. Criminal behavior. It took a few months to get everything filed. But that was just the start. And I was far from done. Once the case was filed, things moved fast, but not smooth. Greg found out through his lawyer and tried to contact me. I didn't answer. Then Jeremy sent me a message on Facebook. Just 2 words. You bitch. I didn't respond. Instead, I handed everything over to my lawyer, Ms. Cranston. She was sharp, no nonsense, and told me flat out. They're gonna fight this hard. But don't let that scare you. She was right. 2 weeks later, I got served. Greg was countersuing me for unlawful tenancy and property damage. Said I owed him money for wear and tear on the house. I laughed when I read that. Then I cried. Then I got angry. It wasn't just a legal fight now, it was personal. Ms. Cranston wasn't shaken. We'll file a motion to dismiss. It's a tactic. He's trying to rattle you. Roy kept digging. He found more than I expected. Apparently, Greg had been pulling money out of Grandma's account slowly for over 4 years. Small amounts at first. Then larger ones. He'd used her Social Security money to fund a failed business idea with Jeremy, a landscaping company that never got off the ground. He used her credit card for airline tickets and hotel stays. He even took out a reverse mortgage on the house without telling her. My blood boiled reading those reports. Roy also found out Amanda had Grandma sign some papers one time when she was heavily sedated. We weren't sure what they were yet, but it looked like Amanda had taken out a private loan in Grandma's name. A big one. The deeper we dug, the dirtier it got. And I was starting to realize something. This wasn't just greed. This was a plan. They'd seen me as a roadblock. Just the help. Not family. Not someone they needed to worry about. They thought I'd just cry and go away. But they didn't know me. Meanwhile, I had to find somewhere to live. I couldn't stay with my friend forever. So I moved into a cheap 1-bedroom apartment across town. No furniture. Just a mattress on the floor, my clothes, and Grandma's shoebox. I worked at a gas station part-time, trying to scrape together rent and legal fees. Mess. Cranston was working with me on payment. She believed in the case. But it still hurt, having nothing, while Greg and his spoiled kids were living like nothing happened. Then I got a call. It was from Ms. Cranston. They're trying to sell off more of the estate. Jewelry, furniture, her life insurance policy. I got wind of it through a contact at the title office. They were liquidating everything, even personal stuff. That was the last straw. I drove straight to the courthouse and filed a motion to freeze the estate. We included the video clips, the bank records, and a copy of Grandma's journal. The judge signed it the next day. They were blocked. Everything was locked. And then something weird happened. Amanda showed up at my apartment. She knocked like it was normal. I opened the door just enough to see her face. She looked rough, hair a mess, makeup streaked, like she'd been crying. "Can we talk?" she asked. I stepped outside, but I didn't invite her in. She started rambling about how she didn't know the full extent of what Greg was doing, how Jeremy pressured her, how she was just trying to protect the family. Then she said it. "We could drop the suit. If you want. Maybe we can settle. I can talk to my dad." I stared at her for a long time. "You helped steal from a dying woman." She didn't deny it. She just said, "You can't win. Even if you do, you'll get nothing." Then she left. But she was wrong. I was winning. Because the truth was coming out, and they were scrambling. A week later, Roy called with something big. "Found the buyer Greg sold the house to. Name's Darren Lowry. Guess what? He's Greg's golf buddy. They cooked the whole thing up months ago. Darren never even planned to move in. He was just holding it until Greg could buy it back once the heat died down. It was fraud. Plain and simple. We took that straight to the DA's office. And suddenly, this wasn't just civil, it was criminal. Greg got called in for questioning. Amanda, too. Jeremy refused to show up. Then news started spreading. A reporter showed up at my work asking for comments. I didn't say much, but I gave her Roy's number. The next Sunday, it was on the front page of the local paper. Family accused of defrauding elderly woman, granddaughter files suit after years of care. I bought 5 copies. I still wasn't rich. Still wasn't stable. But something had shifted. They were finally on defense. And I wasn't done yet. After the article hit the paper, everything changed. People I hadn't heard from in years started reaching out. Old classmates. Friends from nursing school. Even 2 of Grandma's former neighbors wrote me letters saying they always wondered what was really going on after Greg started showing up more often and acting like he owned the place. One of them, Mrs. Lacey, even remembered seeing Amanda carrying out boxes late at night the month before Grandma passed. That information turned out to be huge. Because when Roy followed up, he found out those boxes? They weren't junk. Amanda had emptied out a safe Grandma kept in the back of her closet. Inside that safe were important documents, bonds, birth certificates, and the original version of Grandma's will. Not a copy. The real one. Signed, dated, and notarized. But it never showed up in court. It had disappeared. Now I knew why. They stole it. And they either destroyed it, or worse, were planning to use it for something else. Roy pushed harder. He reached out to a friend who worked in private estate management, and we learned something that made my stomach turn. Amanda had tried to file a different version of the will. One that was typed clean, and named Greg as the full heir. It was submitted 2 days after Grandma died. But here's the kicker. It was dated just 3 weeks earlier, and the notary listed on it. Fake. A guy who died in 2017. They'd forged a will. That was the twist no one saw coming. My lawyer nearly dropped her coffee when she saw the report. "This changes everything," she said. We brought it to the judge immediately. A hearing was scheduled to challenge the will's legitimacy. Amanda and Greg were subpoenaed. They had to bring every version of the will they had. Meanwhile, Roy didn't stop. He found something else. Grandma had opened a small life insurance policy when she was in her 50s. It wasn't a fortune, maybe $40,000, but it named me as the sole beneficiary. That, too, had gone missing. It was never claimed. The insurance company had flagged it as inactive, because no claim was filed after her death. But someone tried. Jeremy. He had attempted to claim it using fake ID and a falsified death certificate. Roy traced the call logs and email traffic. We handed that over to police. That's when Jeremy panicked. 2 nights before the court hearing, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't know. It was Jeremy. He was drunk. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're not. You're nothing. You were always nothing. You just wiped her ass while the rest of us moved on. You'll never get what you think you deserve. You hear me? Never." Then he hung up. I saved the message. Played it in court. That morning, Amanda showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days. Greg looked pissed. Jeremy didn't show at all. Their lawyer asked for a delay. The judge denied it. Said we'd waited long enough. The forged will was ripped apart on the spot. Not only was it fraudulent, it was criminal. The court reinstated Grandma's original handwritten will, the one Roy helped recover a scanned copy of from her bank's digital archive. And even better? One of the witnesses who signed it, her old pastor, was still alive and agreed to testify. Greg's face went pale when he saw him walk into that courtroom. Everything unraveled in public. The fraud. The forged documents. The hidden bank withdrawals. The fake claim on the life insurance. All of it laid out in detail. My lawyer didn't miss a beat. She made sure the judge saw every single moment of what they did, not just to Grandma, but to me. When Amanda was called to the stand, she broke. Right there. On the record. She admitted she helped forge the will. Said Greg pressured her, and that she didn't know what else to do. She said Jeremy was the one who burned the original will and tried to file the fake one after Grandma died. Greg lost it. Started yelling in court. Said Amanda was lying, that she was trying to cut him out. It was a circus. But for the first time in years, I wasn't the one suffering in silence. They were. Outside the courthouse, a reporter shoved a mic in my face. I didn't say much. Just looked at the camera and said, "She deserved better. That's why I'm here." And I meant every word. But this wasn't the end. Because something else was still coming. Something they didn't see. Something I was saving for the very last move. The courtroom battle ended the way I hoped, but it wasn't enough. I still had one more move left. One last thing that I didn't tell anyone about. Not even my lawyer. It started with a visit I made 2 months before the trial, right after I found the USB drive and the journal. I went to Grandma's church, St. Lydia's, a small brick building at the edge of town where she used to volunteer. The secretary remembered me. She hugged me when I walked in and said, "Your grandma used to pray for you every morning." She led me to a back room where they kept old records. And that's when I found it, a signed and sealed letter Grandma had left with the church pastor. It was dated the year before she died. The letter said, "If anything happens to me, and my granddaughter Rachel is mistreated or denied what is fair, please release this letter and the attached video to the local newspaper. Let them see who my real family was, and who they weren't." It was stapled to a flash drive. I didn't open it at the time. I saved it. I kept it quiet. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I'd use it if things went too far. And after Greg screamed in court, and Amanda cried, and Jeremy ran off to avoid arrest, I knew it was time. I gave it to the same reporter who'd covered the original story. She remembered me. I told her there was more, and she asked, "Is this about revenge?" "No," I said. "It's about truth." The next Sunday, the paper published a full spread. The title said it all. Final words from Grandma. A dying woman's last message exposes family greed. The flash drive video was uploaded online. In it, Grandma sat in her recliner. She looked weak but calm. She spoke slowly, every word clear. "I know I won't be around much longer. But I need to say this. My granddaughter Rachel gave up everything to care for me. She is my heart. She is the reason I stayed alive as long as I did. If anyone tries to take what belongs to her, know this: I saw you. I saw what you did. And I forgive you. But God may not." She looked into the camera and said, "Gregory, Amanda, Jeremy, shame on you." That video exploded. Local news stations picked it up. Online articles followed. People who saw Greg as a nice guy at the country club started treating him like a leper. Amanda's old employer, remember, she was a school counselor, called her in and officially blacklisted her from working in the district again. Jeremy? He tried to move to Kansas City under a fake name. Didn't work. 2 months later, police found him hiding out in a motel and arrested him on charges of identity theft, insurance fraud, and elder financial abuse. Greg was next. He was found guilty on 2 felony counts: fraud and exploitation of a vulnerable adult. His license as a financial advisor was revoked. He lost his home, his savings, and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Not a long sentence, but long enough for a man like him who loved being in control. Now he answers to someone else. Amanda was charged with conspiracy and forgery. She got 18 months probation and community service, but worse for her? She was sued by the notary's family for using his name in the forged will. Turns out, his daughter was a lawyer. And she wasn't kind. I got the house back. Fully in my name. The insurance company paid out the life policy, every cent. I also won damages in court for emotional distress and theft. The estate was cleared. All assets transferred to me. Legally, cleanly, and forever. But here's the twist most people don't expect. Even after all that, I didn't feel happy. Not right away. Because I lost 7 years of my life. I lost my grandma. I lost time. And no amount of money or justice could give that back. So I did something no one expected. I took a portion of the money, about $30,000, and set up a scholarship at the local community college. The name? The Mabel Grant for Caregivers. It's for students who had to drop out or delay school to take care of sick or elderly family members. People like me. The rest of the money? I used it to finish my nursing degree. I work at a clinic now. It's not fancy. But I help people. And when I see someone struggling to take care of their mother or grandmother, I take my time with them. Because I know how it feels to be the one who's left behind. And if you're wondering what happened to the family? We haven't spoken since court. They haven't tried to reach me. Not once. But sometimes, late at night, I think about what Jeremy said in that voicemail. You'll never get what you think you deserve. He was wrong. I didn't get what I deserved. I got what was mine. And I made sure they'd never forget it.